Welcome back to the Diecast channel, guys. Today we are looking at all new Greenlight Battalion 64. This is Series 4, the full 6 vehicle set. Everything coming out of their packages for a full review. We'll take a quick look comparison at the packaging versus Series 3, as there has been a slight change. But for the most part, this is a loose review alongside my extensive Greenlight 1/64 scale collection of tanks, Jeeps, and other military-themed vehicles, and I've got lots to show you in today's video. Let's take a look at more than just the tanks and the Jeeps. You can see I have 3 of these Sherman M4 tanks, and I'm going to go into some of the details on these military vehicles as we get into the video, but first, just showing you what you're going to see. This is my entire Greenlight U.S. military collection of vehicles, many of which were released in the Battalion 64 series, and some were Greenlight exclusives. We've got a whole bunch of these Chevy M1009 CUCV vehicles, as well as some M1008 commercial utility cargo vehicles. And there's one 1967 Ford Custom, as well as the Jeep DJ5, I believe the designation is for these two. And of course, there are the most recognizable Jeeps, and Greenlight has produced a lot of them. The Willys MB Jeep, built for World War II. And more recently, the Jeep J8, although I don't know that these two-door versions really qualify as a Jeep J8. I'll tell you more about that in a second, just based on my research. And we've got this awesome rolling canvas for the U.S. Army, the 2013 International Jurastar Cube van. And I added these ones, even though they're not U.S. military. They were at one time U.S. military, made famous by Stacy David on his TV series Trucks, with an exclamation point. This is based on a 1941 military half-ton 4x4, and he lovingly called it Sergeant Rock. I'm not sure if his had a turret in the back, as this one does. They both have that rear mural, but one has a more bronzy look to the paint, and the other has silver hub wheels without a turret. And of course, Greenlight produced a Black Bandit version, just as they did with those M4 Sherman tanks. And today we will be adding 6 more vehicles to my military collection with Battalion 64 Series 4. Here it is next to Series 3. The only real difference between the card art is there is a kind of a tinge color change, if you will. The green being brighter green now on the background versus the more drab green of Series 3 and previous. And of course, I do have 2 vehicles from Series 3 to open up, including that 1984 Chevrolet M1009 CUCV with the turret on the back. And that'll be joining my other trucks that you've seen here. And there's also a 1984 Chevrolet with the back cap. This one is going to be from the Air Force, U.S. Air Force version, Security Police. And we're also getting a 1972 AMC Matador U.S. Air Force. So that's new. Haven't seen those liveries on Greenlight's military-themed vehicles before. Nor have I seen this U.S. Navy paint version on the 1970 Harvester Scout. Also a new casting for the military theme, the 1942 Ford 4-door Deluxe Army Staff Car. Very cool. That's definitely a World War II era car. Series 4 produces a 1943 M4 Sherman tank. And I have an exclusive here, 1945 Sherman tank. First time with this accessory missile rocket system that is attachable on top. And of course, you can see it as an exclusive up in the top right corner. So we're going to open all those up, and then we're going to go in for a little bit of a story on some of the information on each of these iconic military vehicles used throughout the U.S. and by the Allies even, as depicted here with this 42 Jeeps Willys Series 4 British Army Command Car. So the Allies used a lot of these American-produced vehicles during World War II, and many other countries continued to use them for decades after. And here is the most threatening military creature known to mankind, the feline with a foot in the air. What are you doing, Nina? Get your foot right up in the air. Anyways, back to the show. The tanks. Let's talk first about the M4 Sherman tank, the most widely used medium tank used by the US and the Allies during World War II. I have 5 of Greenlight's versions here. I'm missing 3. One of them is a solid green version, just like this one, which is an exclusive as well. And the other 2 are from Battalion 64 Series 2, and they both have some unique accessories as well. So I'll probably be shopping for those. But more about the actual tanks. These were produced by the US. They made up to almost 50,000 of them. And these 2 here you're seeing, I think, are from Series 1 of Battalion 64. They were produced between 1942 and 1945. Here we have a Black Bandit version by Greenlight. And some were still used right up until 2018 in a country called Paraguay for a presidential defense convoy. Of all the military vehicles in my collection, I have the most and the most duplicates of the Chevy M1008. And this is based on a 1 1/4 ton GM produced pickup truck. And it was used for a lot of different configurations by the US Army over the years. In this selection, I have 1984 versions, 1985, and 1987, although I can't find any differences between them as far as trim or headlights and grills. Which brings us to the M1009, based on a Chevy K5 Blazer. This one here has the military camouflage paint job. These 3 have K5 Blazer written on the base, but they certainly do resemble some sort of military truck that has been painted just a flat drab green. Of course, they have the removable back cap, revealing a spare tire and a jump seat. I have no additional information on the 67 Ford. It just appears to be a crew car of some sort. But the Jeep DJ5, this is an interesting Jeep, and it was produced from 1955 to 1984 by the US military and was affectionately known as the Dispatcher. It went on to be used by the US Mail Postal Service, as is quite a convenient little 2-door version of a Jeep CJ7. And this Medic version here is a 1976, while the gloss brown is a 1970. Again, I could not find any trim differences visible while looking at the actual little models here. From Greenlight Hitch and Tow Series 23, we have a 1943 Willys MB Jeep with a 1 1/4 ton trailer. And this little Jeep is the only one I have that has a removable canvas roof, showing a nice olive green interior. Great details on these little models. Now the Jeep Willys MB 1 1/4 ton light 4x4 car was produced by the US between 1941 and 1945 for World War II. They made almost 360,000 of these vehicles in real life, and they were used by the Allies as well, and probably still continue to be used to this day in other countries. In 2007, the US military created the Jeep J8 designation using the Jeep Wrangler platform, also known as the JK. The reason why I don't know if these Jeeps are actually military is because that platform used a vehicle that was the 4-door version, either as a personnel transport or turned it into a 2-door with a pickup truck bed for light cargo capacity. Either way, it's an interesting vehicle because it differs from the civilian version, using a 2.8-liter 4-cylinder diesel engine versus the gas engines available in these Jeeps to civilians, and it had a much heavier suspension than any of the civilian versions. This, I do believe, is just a rolling poster board for the US Army, so I have no additional information on international Durastar trucks as used in the military. And I forgot to mention that Stacey David's Sergeant Rock is actually based on a 1941 to 1942 US-produced Dodge half-ton truck, of which there were over 30 body styles with 30 different designations. This one specifically was the WC14, indicating a two-door cab with a pickup. Of course, it has been heavily modified by Stacy David to create Sergeant Rock, as seen in his television show. All right, well, let's get the remaining 6 vehicles out of the packaging to join all of the other U.S. Army vehicles here on the table. And now, join me at the review table where I've parked the latest additions to my collection, everything here about to come out of the packaging. One last look at what is new, Series 4, and also just a quick peek at the back of the packages for anyone interested. The hobby exclusive has a slightly different background than the others, showing a bit of terrain artwork and just the name of the vehicle in the package. Series 3, I did not collect the whole series, but you can pause there to see what other vehicles were available. I think I have a few out of that set, but not all of them. Series 4, we don't really need to look at because we've got all 6. And I bought these by the case, so that was a good deal for me. So the first one I'm going to take out of the package is the 1984 Chevrolet M1009 CUCV. This one, of course, has a turret in the back of the pickup truck and a cracked windshield by the looks of it. Is that... oh, we got a cracked windshield. Well, I guess that happens in war, but it should not happen in your collectibles anyways. Still a really cool model. And this is glued in or friction fit. I'm not sure. Might have a little dab of glue in there. Looks like it, actually. But a nice model. Look at some zoomage here. Not sure those wheels really make sense for this. I guess they do. Those look like a 8-bolt, perhaps. Should be a heavy-duty wheel for a 1 1/4 ton truck. This is a short bed by the looks of it, with the push bar, detailed headlights, and stuff behind the grille, and a nicely painted satin black finish. Roll test, sufficient. Next up, let's look at some tanks. We're going to look at the hobby exclusive now with the missile rack. Is there an official name for that? Let me know in the comments. 45 M4 Sherman tank. World War II era. These are always fun to open. Heavy model. And great details for the tracks. Functional tracks too, I might add. I'm not sure how robust they are. I wouldn't suggest giving this to a child for play. But as far as authenticity of the model goes, it looks really good. It's all metal as well, and assembled, interestingly, with little starhead screws. Typically, we see rivets for Greenlight, but these tanks are actually screwed together, so you could take them apart if you were so inclined. Now, this piece here feels a little flimsy, definitely plastic supports, and it looks like it might just come off. Yeah, so it's removable. I'm not sure if I really want to do that. Nah, I'm going to leave it together because that's how I'm going to display it. I suspect over time, being front heavy, it's going to start to sag even more and more. But, you know, whatever. Really cool details. I'm not going to do a roll test with this. I'll just do a slide test. How about that? Slides nicely. Great scale, though, as you can see. Side by side with that full-size pickup truck. Looking really good. Okay, we're going to slide some more background vehicles in here so we don't lose focus. But we've got another tank to open up. And yes, it's another 1943 M4 Sherman tank. Again, a World War II era. This one, hey, get out of there. We already looked at you. This one doesn't have any accessory attachments. Has the short barrel. I do have one version with the long barrel, as you probably noted earlier when looking at the tanks on the diorama. And those do want to go around, but, you know, because they've been sitting in the package for a little while, even though they're rubber, they kind of take shape, especially at the forward and rear pulley wheels or drive wheels. Are those the drive? That's the drive wheel, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm not super knowledgeable about tanks, but I do know that this is a very accurate model. A lot of different die-cast manufacturers make a version or a model of the Sherman tank, seeing that it was such a historically notable and popular tank. This one, actually, we're going to do a roll test. Check it out. Feels a little less rigid than the other one. Yeah, we're getting some rolling, but yeah, it kind of binds up just from where those treads have been sitting for a little while. So I'm going to leave it at that. Great functionality with these. So this whole turret will also turn as well, I think. Oh, it's kind of stiff, though. This one just seems to be a bit stiff. This one is ready for war. Speaking of war, we've got 5 more vehicles to look at. The 1942 Willys Jeep MB British Army Command Car. So I think this is the first time we've seen a Battalion 64 vehicle representing one of the Allies' vehicles. I could be wrong on that, but I don't have any others in my collection. And of course, it's just a little wee Jeep. Nicely detailed. Great wheels on it. Got a tire that's not quite fitting perfectly there, but it's not the worst. And check out the little decals. That's a really good little model, actually, of the Jeep. No opening parts, but just really nicely done. And it is a tiny little model. Okay, one more drab green vehicle to look at, and this is certainly one of my favorites in the collection. The 42 Ford 4-door Deluxe Army Staff Car. Very cool, because this is a vehicle, something at least similar that I've seen in many a movie. Support vehicles to have in the background. Kind of a more comfortable staff car, so this would be for someone with a few more chevrons on their sleeve, potentially. I think, anyways. I mean, it is a Chevy, but check out the suicide doors here. Love this model. And in this series, Battalion 64, it's absolutely a must if you're after these older cars. Very cool. Now, I really like the way that Greenlight has branched out with not only having the Army Corps sort of vehicles, but having U.S. Navy and Air Force themed vehicles, because it's all very fitting and it's going to make a great variety to the collection to have such vehicles. And just nice to see them in all these different colors. So just check out the details on this. And we got the little, I think that's a sport livery. Does that say sport? I don't know. It wouldn't say sport back then, would it? I'll probably be able to read it after post-editing here, but for now, I'm looking at a tiny little model at arm's length. So here it is. Nice little Scout. Oh, it's Scout. Of course it's not sport. It's a Scout. There's no such thing as a Scout sport. So here we go. Pardon my brain fart, but that's a nice little roller as well. That's a good roller. Did we roll all these? Great rolling vehicles. Some of the newer Greenlights to be made. These are still available at the time of filming. Should be widely available at your places of sale where Greenlight is available. And the 1984 Chevrolet M1009 CUCV Air Force Security Police in the K5 Blazer derivative. Like that light bar, very authentic for the time period. Dog dish hubcaps. And that nice dark blue paint job. Dual exhaust on this truck. An unpainted base. That's just really nice. Nice shiny paint. Wow, that thing rolls like a Hot Wheel. That's amazing. And we've got another matching vehicle. Matching U.S. Air Force themed vehicle, I should say. 1972 AMC Matador. Really nice casting. Nice and clean. Clean windows on these. Check out those hubcaps. Those are done real well. And the tail lights. License plate. Very cool. I don't remember seeing this level of detail in this car before. I'm going to have to take a second look. Official use only, it says on the plate. That's a great zoom in on this car. Such tremendous details. Matador on the hood. And those two vehicles side by side look great together. Let's go in for a roll test. Nice rolling cars. Wow, we've got all solid rollers other than the tank, and I'll forgive it. Let's just take one last look at all of these vehicles now together, because it might be a while before I get my entire Greenlight US military collection out. for a roll here on the Diorama, formerly Sam's Salvage Yard. And I might as well just take a look at the latest additions alongside all these other awesome models. Tell me, do you guys enjoy collecting military vehicles by Greenlight? Perhaps some other brands as well. I know Johnny Lightning makes some nice ones too. And there is just so much out there. Hope you enjoyed this video. Of course, if you're after any of the Battalion 64 or other Greenlight models, happy hunting. We'll see you in the next video.